Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome back to the channel, the Kia EV6 GT, the fastest Kia ever made. 577 horsepower, all electric, utterly bonkers. Now, I first drove this car in Sweden about 12 months ago or so. If you've not seen that video, it's a full review. I'll put a link in the top right hand corner of your screen and in the description. Head on over and see that. This isn't so much a full review of the car, because in Sweden I got to drag race it, drift it and drive it on the public road in Sweden. But what I really wanted to do was take it on a longer journey to test out the GT credentials in its name. So as soon as Kia UK got some GTs on the press fleet, I booked one. And I have to say, this is the first EV6 GT that I've seen that's not been in the kind of matte silver finish. I really like it in this murdered out spec with, you know, black everywhere apart from the luminous green calipers and some piping on the inside. It's a really smart interior of this car. So we're actually at the end of my week with the EV6 GT. It's why it's a little bit dirty. I've done well over 500 miles in this car, because this week I decided to go and visit my mate Moggy at Electric Classic Cars in Wales. It's about 200 or so miles each way, and I thought it'd be a really good journey to stretch this car's legs. I wanted to work out what its real world range is. Does the high performance of the GT detract from the range and the drivability of a normal EV6? What's it like when you have to plug it into charging infrastructure in public? I've got my 7 kilowatt Zappi wall charger over there, but you know, if I'm driving to Wales, I'm going to have to charge in public. And maybe I could have a road trip video in an EV that went well rather than went badly. Let's see, shall we? Anyway, strap yourselves in for my week with the EV6 GT. It's certainly an utterly bonkers car, but is it any good as a GT car? Okay, I think we are all set. So I've had the car on charge overnight. It's at 100% battery state, and it's currently showing a range of 218 miles. So I'm going to head off now. In terms of routes, I'm going to use the native sat nav in the car because I never do that on test, but also for some bizarre reason, this car, I cannot get Apple CarPlay to work. It says I need an approved cable. I'm now presuming that means a Kia approved cable, because I have a genuine Apple cable plugged into the USB-C port down there, and it's not working at all. So I've got the car sat nav running on the main MMI display, and I've got my iPhone set on the right hand side here, and I'm running a combination of of Waze and Zap Map. I've typed in my destination to my mate Will's house, where I'm going now, 177 miles, so I should be able to get there without charging. However, tomorrow I've got a full day of filming with Moggy, and I can't charge at Will's house. And Will lives about 20 miles away from Electric Classic Cars. So what I plan to do is a quick volt and bolt around about Abergavenny area. I've been online, I've done some kind of looking around to see where I can find a rapid charger, and I've put that charge stop into Waze via Zap Map. So the sat nav will sort itself out, because that's taking me a slightly different way. This is one of the things, and it's not a major issue. If you're going on a journey, you just need to do a bit of planning, and I've been on online and on Zap Map. This route, if I put in a route that was more than 218 miles, it would direct me to a charge stop for a charge, but because it's within the range, it hasn't done that. So there you go, that's my planning anyway. So let's get cracking with the journey, and then en route I'll tell you a little bit more about the journey and my plans for this trip. Now, instant sit rep as I'm less than half a mile into my journey. In normal mode I'm showing 217 miles. I'm actually going to run in eco, and that's taken the range up to 224 miles. It will deaden the throttle off and so on. Now, interestingly, I drove this car up to Podium Place and back yesterday, and I went all the way there in GT mode, which allows you to tap into the full 577 tyre shredding horsepower. And believe me, I felt really sorry for the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres on the rear axle of this car, because it really does I'm sure this thing gets through tyres at a rate of knots. But even in GT mode, I was doing about 2.5 to 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour, which I didn't think was too bad. So I will be intrigued to see what happens when I'm in eco mode and how efficient the car's going to be. Total journey to Will's house is 176 miles, but the range to the 50 kilowatt charge station that I'm going to, according to Waze, is 159 miles, or about 3 hours. So let's get cracking with the journey, and I'll update you. I'm not going to kind of do too much on the way because I want to talk to you about what happens when I get to Wales. But this is a GT car, and you need to be able to do the miles. I must say, I'm not so sure. Oh, you overtake there on a blind corner, mate. That's all good by me. I'm doing the national speed limit. Sorry. I'd like a bit more miles than 222, but that will be calculated on the way this car's been driven. It's only got 1,200 miles on the clock, and I would imagine, because it's a press car and it's the GT EV6, that it's been ragged within an inch of its life. So that's probably not helped the economy figures. And I can't find a way in the MMI to reset the mileage or the driving history. But I would have liked to have done that, but I couldn't find a way to do it. So I'm hoping that it will go, oh, you're not ragging me within an inch of my life, I'll give you a few more miles than that. Let's see, shall we? I'm currently in an average speed zone, 50 miles an hour, on the A272 between Petersfield and Winchester, and they've destroyed this piece of road, but that's another subject. Really nice feature. First off, it tells you that there's a 50 mile an hour measured zone. It comes up in the head-up display, but it also has your average speed showing, which I think's really, really useful. I don't think I've ever seen that in another car before. I've just now come into a new zone. It also tells you in the head-up display and on the main screen how much longer you're in the average speed zone. I just think that's a really nice feature, because sometimes, you know what it's like in these average speed zones, you might go over the average speed, you might suddenly look down and see, I don't know, I'm doing 54 and it's 50, and you're like, oh no, and you have to slow down, and it's all about average speed. Well, now I can tell you now, my average speed is currently 47 miles an hour, and it's a 50 mile zone. Nice feature, that. Well, as a GT car, if you want to dispatch the miles, level 2 autonomous driving certainly helps. I've got lane departure assistance. Basically, it's steering itself. I could take my hands off the steering wheel and it kind of keeps itself in lane. After a few seconds, it says, put your hands back on the steering wheel. Actually, it takes quite a long time before it says, put your hands back on the steering wheel. There we go. And that just makes a long journey really, really relaxing. I've just got the cruise set to 70 miles an hour. I'm currently doing 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour after 41 miles of travel. And I know if I really wanted to kind of, hyper mile, I probably shouldn't be doing 70 miles an hour. If I backed it off to 60 miles an hour, I get even more efficiency. But there's a fine line between being super efficient and getting to the destination on time, right? So I'm just going to stay at 70 miles an hour and see how I get on. I've arrived. Osprey, not used those before. 3 charge bays there, and they are all empty. Excellent. Now let's see if it's an easy to use one, shall we? Because if it is, I might even have a little pub there for me to go and get some food, which would be mega, because I'm starving. Oh, okay. That wasn't too painful. Osprey, never used them before. I couldn't use a contactless payment card, so I had to download the app. Luckily, there was enough mobile phone coverage here to do that. Created an account very, very quickly. Put in my charge card details, and I am now charging, apparently. I am currently charging... Oh, it's just building up. 50... 60, 70, 74 kilowatts. It's not bad. So I'm at 33% battery. It reckons I've got 50 minutes to 100% charge. That is long enough for me to go inside and grab some lunch. 29 minutes to 80%. Now, I'm probably going to stay on here because I'm going to grab some lunch until it's 100%, because one, I want to grab some lunch, and an hour's about the right sort of time to do that, and two, because of what I'm doing tomorrow, I want as much battery as I can possibly get. But before anybody moans, I know the most efficient way, time-wise anyway, would be for me to just stay on here for 28 minutes, go to 80% of battery, and then be on my way. But I think charging at 74 kilowatts, it's pretty quick, to be honest. Right, I'm going to go and grab some lunch. That was the perfect electric car charge session. Oh, so a lovely lunch, about an hour's worth. Let me just have a quick look what I've put into the car. So I put 54.16 kilowatt hours of juice into the battery. That cost me £42.79. What's that given me in terms of range now? Let me just turn the car on. Oh, turn the music back off again. So we're now back up to 222 miles of range, which is probably a little bit more than it might be to charge your car with petrol, but not bad. I mean, I'm not a member of Osprey. I don't know whether there are any deals to be done. I know Kia have a system where if they've got deals with a number of different charge network providers. I don't have that because this is a press car, so I'm playing like the most expensive ever, but I don't think that's too bad. What's that? 54 divided by 42. Let me just work that one out. Yeah, it's like 70 pence a kilowatt hour. It's probably quite a lot, actually. Oh well, never mind. Okay, so I've now got, how long have I got? About 48 miles to get to my mate Will's house. That's not too bad, so I'll get there with, yeah, pretty good. I'm pleased with that. 100% charge, 220 miles. I can now carry on my journey. See, now this is a nice bit of Welsh road. Now, one of the things I do love about this EV6, let me just get past this cyclist, here we go, is to move between the drive modes, you've just got two buttons on the steering wheel. The one on the left goes between the base, eco, normal and sport, and then if you hit the lovely kind of green one, that goes into GT mode. You tap into all 577 horsepower, and then this thing's a rocket ship. I mean, seriously, it's so quick. The throttle response is instant. The interesting thing, so I've got regen braking. You can adjust it with the paddles on the back of the steering wheel. But the really interesting thing, I've got it on its maximum setting at the moment. When you brake really hard into a corner, normally what would happen in a normal ICE car, if you like, is you brake. As you lift off the brake, you've got no retardation at all, and then you'd maybe turn in or prepare for the next element you're going to go round. In this, when you brake really hard, I'll do it here. I mean, it's a feel thing. You won't be able to see it. I'm braking now, and then as you come off the brake, it bleeds off the brake because you've still got regen retarding the car, and it's just a really interesting characteristic. You almost kind of have to get used to it. It feels a little bit like you're almost trail braking into the corner, and every time you come off the throttle, you've got this retardation. Now you can turn that off completely, but I mean the zip you've got out the corners in this car. Now, I've been driving all day for the last 3.5 hours or so in efficient mode, you know, trying to get as much out the battery as possible. When you get to a lovely bit of road like this, you just have to get on it because this car, it's a brilliant mile muncher, but when you get on a nice bit of road like this, it's just epic, this car. It feels nice. The steering, it's quite a twitchy front end. You've got to wait to the steering, but it's very direct. Slow down for that 30. It's very direct and pointy, and the whole car has quite a nice poise and a balance to it. It's got some weight in it. Clearly, it's an EV, but when you're on a twisty bit of road like that, It's really, really good. And honestly, you don't really miss the sound of an engine because you've got this different set of senses going on. The instant torque, the regen braking, the ability just to get on the power everywhere, you know, wherever you are. There's no delay at all. As soon as you hit the apex, you can get on the gas and you can pull yourself out the corner. And it's got so much traction. It's running Michelin Pilot Sport 4 S's, so there's loads and loads of grip. I mentioned already, I do kind of feel a bit sorry for the rear tyres, because when you really accelerate hard, when you stamp on the throttle, you can feel that rear axle gripping up. You can feel and the traction control just working its magic to stop the wheels just spinning up in a massive smoke ball. But yeah, it's good. Wowzers. Anyway, plan of attack now. I've got to go to Newtown. Newtown is about 30 miles. It's 28 to 29 miles. And I'm currently at 78% charge, which is still 168 miles. But because I've got a day of filming today, and I potentially we're going to do some stuff with the EV6, and then I've got to drive home tonight, I kind of want as much charge as possible. Now, Moggy does have 3-phase AC charging at the workshop, and we're filming a couple of videos today, and the first of those, while we're filming that, I can hook the car up onto the AC charger. But even AC charging, I mean, it depends on this car. I'm not, you know, most EVs will only charge up to about 11 kilowatts on AC. So there's a 50 kilowatt charger in Newtown, and so the plan was, it's just after 7 o'clock, the plan is to get to that, plug in onto the 50 kilowatt charger, top the battery up while I have a little bit of breakfast, and then the car will be full, and that just gives me, I'm going to have to charge on the way home, but that's fine. I'll just find a 50 kilowatt charger. Now this one's a pod point, so I quickly did my research last night, found the charger, realised it was pod point. God, these lanes are narrow. And then downloaded the pod point app, registered, and so on. So I should be all good to go when I get there. I'm still finding that, although so far no jinxing going on here, I've had a good experience with public charging, it's still quite fragmented. I did find out that Osprey charger, by the way, a couple of people said they do take debit cards or contactless payment cards. For some reason, mine wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Wow, look at the gap between these two buildings. Oh my God. So I'm not sure why that was, so I had to download the app. But apparently, and even Osprey, hats off to them, I put some stuff on social, and they messaged me back saying, thanks for your positive feedback on the charger, but don't worry, basically, our chargers take contactless payment. Anyway, apparently I'm going this way. Okay, we've arrived. Tesco's Newtown. Now then, 1, let's see if we can find this pod point charger. And 2, let's see if anyone's connected to it. There it is. Pod point. And there's a car connected to that one, but not a car connected to this one. So I spoke too soon, didn't I? Now, there's only, although there's a bank of chargers here, there's only one 50 kilowatt DC rapid charger, and there's already a Kia EV6 plugged into it actually. I could plug into the 7 kilowatt, but to be honest, the plan was not to be here that long, maybe just 20 minutes, half an hour while I wait for the workshop to open, because it's just about 8:30 now. So I could plug in and have a little bit of a trickle, but I may as well just plug into Moggy's on there, although there is a guy now walking towards this Kia, and it could well be the owner. We could be in luck. Now that was a proper bolt and bolt. Under 15 minutes I was on the charger. I've now taken myself up to 81%, 181 miles. Any more than that, you start kind of slowing down the charge, and it's now gone 9 o'clock, and I kind of need to get myself over to the workshop. But that should do me. I think that was like something like 60 pence per kilowatt, I think, or kilowatt hour, which isn't the cheapest ever, but it'll do. All right, off to Moggy's. Oh, wow. What an epic Epic day. So good to be back here at Electric Classic Cars. But so I've had the car on the 3-phase AC charger while we've been doing stuff, and it is back up to 98%. That gives me 220 miles of range in eco mode, and Waze is saying 213 miles to get home. So yeah, I think I'm going to do a bolt and volt on the A34 just by Newbury. There's a really cool Shell very high speed charge, so I think we'll go there. Cool. Let us head off. So yes, so I in theory I could get home. I won't do. I'll have a very quick, probably just 10 to 15 minute charge near Newbury, and that should get us home. But yeah, so good to be back with Moggy. Now I've filmed a couple of videos. I don't know which order they'll go in, whether they will have, one of them might have dropped before this video goes out, to be fair. But yeah, it's so good to be back. As I said, I haven't been to Electric Classic Cars since we finished filming Vintage Voltage, which was over 18 months ago now. So while we drive home through beautiful Wales, I've got a disparity between the two sat-navs. I'm running Waze and the in-car Kia sat-nav. Waze says I've got 202 miles to go home. The car says he can get me home in 186 miles, which is very interesting because I've still got 209 miles of range, which means I can get home without charging. So I'm going to see if I can do that by using the car. But yes, I am going to try. I'm going to go with the Kia sat-nav, see if I can get home without a charge stop. That'd be awesome, because that means I'll be home at like 6:30. So I've been in the car for 4 hours and 25 minutes, and I'm very nearly home. I'm 5 miles away from home. The amazing thing is I've still got 26% of the battery left. I've been so impressed with this car. In fact, the battery in the car has lasted much longer than the battery of my main GoPro, which is why I'm using a backup. I've not driven like Miss Daisy either. I've been in eco mode the vast majority of the way home. I've popped into GT a couple of times to do some overtakes, but I've just been going along with the flow of traffic, 50 to 60 miles an hour on a national 60. And on the motorway, I went into highway drive assist mode, put the cruise on at 70 miles an hour. So I've just been going along and driving normally. And, you know, looking at the numbers, this car's potentially, if I carried on driving until the battery ran out, I'd do 250 miles. I've done 195 miles, and I've still got 60 miles of range left. Absolutely amazing. The miles per kilowatt hour, up until literally I went up the Petrol Ped hill climb, was sat at 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. Before I got on the motorway, it actually was as high as 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour, but then when you go onto the motorway at 70 miles an hour, that brings that efficiency down again. It's been phenomenal on the way home. Very comfortable. I haven't stopped. I've been driving for nearly 4.5 hours, and I still feel fresh. I don't have a numb bum. It's the true test for me of a GT car, and the thing that's really impressed me is I honestly, when I got in the car at Moggy's, I was convinced I was going to have a quick volt and bolt on the way home, a quick 10 to 20 minutes of charge. I even spoke to Tracy just after I got in the car and said, look, I'll be home about 6:30, but I need to have probably a 20-minute charge, so I'll see you around about 7 o'clock. Well, I'm going to be home at, well, 6:40 because there was a little bit of traffic at the bottom of the A34. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So getting 250 miles out of this EV6 GT is possible without driving like like Miss Daisy. Just drive normally with the flow of traffic and you can do it. Very, very impressive. That is for me a road trip in an EV that's gone brilliantly. I've had a couple of charges. They've been really good. The Osprey charge on the way to Wales was super easy, quick, 20 minutes this morning. Yes, I had to wait for 10 minutes or so for someone else to unplug, but wasn't the end of the world. I had a lovely chat with the chap in the other EV6, and I've been able to top up while I was filming today at Moggy's, which helped a lot because that meant when I finished filming the car was full and I could just get on my way. But there you go, it's possible. A road trip in an EV where everything's gone right and it's not been painful. I even had backup charge stops that I didn't need to use. Really, really cool. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film, guys. You take care.